Greetings, I'm Robert Marcoccio, a no affiliation candidate running for the House of Representatives, 4th Congressional District in Pennsylvania. And I know many of you viewing this video may live beyond this jurisdiction, but these issues I speak of in this video are national topics that have general interest to all Americans. I have broken down these topics into a series of videos because some of the subjects needed to be clarified for those who are not very political. In this first video, I will set the stage by explaining the significant changes the 14th Amendment had made to our legislative processes and why it is the core to our current situation and how it should be amended to complete its original purpose in creating a check-in mechanism to protect people from oppressive government. The national authority granted to the Common Union Organization was intended to create the ability of one state to challenge another for acts and legislations that were discriminatory or inappropriate towards any portion of their state population through lawsuit. If that lawsuit maintained the legislation or act of the state as being within the limits of federal constitution, that it would be possible for the United States Legislature to create an appropriate law to render such a state law invalid. This new national authority granted to Common Union Organization was expected to maintain the use of the legislative process created by the Constitution and was not expected to expand the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court into the legislative branch. For such an increase in authority to occur, it is mandated by a constructional protocol to be written into a text of an amendment. It is because the 14th Amendment's lack of this text, many ambiguities have developed to how much authority the Common Union Organization was to have, creating an ability of assumed discretional authority which over the last 147 years has been used to create new methods of making legislation and to expand the authorities of the other branches. This abuse of authority has been used to destroy, discard, undermine, and void more than a dozen check-in mechanisms that protect us from oppressive legislation and the action of government. There are only 2 amendments that have no countermeasures to limit government, with the 14th Amendment being the first and the 16th Amendment being the second. It is for this reason I am running for office. My platform stands on the following principles: to complete the 14th Amendment with an amending amendment that would complete the open-ended structure with the appropriate countermeasure that would give the states the ability to challenge the inappropriate acts and legislations of the federal government. This will bring back the established protection to our religious and civil liberties by securing the state's constituted jurisdiction to represent their constituents. My plan to bring back American industry and economy requires the repeal of NAFTA, which has become the greatest national security risk this country has ever had to face. NAFTA has done more damage to this country's economy, industries, middle class, and free enterprise system than all of the years we experienced during the Cold War with Russia or China. It is with my greatest intent to lower the price of gas, as this is the very core of the failing economy, not only here in America, but all over the world. To lower the price of gas, even as a temporary moratorium in eliminating the federal and state tax for 2 years, would put enough expendable income back into every household, industry, and government agency that the consumer will create a demand for product, and employers will have to hire workers to meet the demand. For many years, it has been the attempt of groups to create a third-party political group for the purpose of diminishing the stronghold the Democrats and Republican national parties have over the election processes. In order for any society to have control over the legislative process to receive the proper representation in government, it is necessary to have the ability to select candidates who will run in the general elections, and for this reason, it is required that the state laws of Pennsylvania be reformed to allow independents to participate in the primary elections. I've begun a voters' action that will have a positive effect on the primary elections and has already been executed to form the No Affiliation Independent Voter Group. The No Affiliation Independent is not a third party, but recognized by all state boards and elections and both national parties as being part of the Democrat and Republican parties. This exception that regards these voters as being independent is that they refuse to submit themselves to the party policies and agendas which do not represent their interests. Here in Pennsylvania, there are more than 566,900 no affiliation voters, and if my action is successful, by midterm election of 2014-2015, these independents will surpass the population of both main parties and will not only be able to vote in the state primaries, but will have a placement on the ballot for candidates. In 1916, the 16th Amendment was ratified to law, and from it came the progressive tax system. This system was not created by the amendment, but by an assumed authority created by yet another ambiguity, created by lack of tax, and for this reason the progressive tax system must be abandoned. In 2010, I developed a cash flow system that would replace the progressive tax. This cash flow system will salvage the bankrupt Social Security system and change the deficit-based system of raising revenue to fund government and infrastructure to a more efficient and effective system. As a nation built upon Christian values of compassion and charity, it is regarded as being part of our heritage and society. These virtues of moral principles should be voluntary and from the heart, and not mandated by the federal or state governments. Religious preference is protected by the Constitution and can only be maintained by the complete neutrality from government intrusion. Separation of church and state in the first 8 constitutions ended the institution of state church having control over the government. Now in the 21st century, this separation must resist the state from controlling religion by use of political correctness. If elected, I will bring this understanding back to Washington. It is a principal factor to maintain and protect self-rule and free enterprise in this country, with the affirmation that mandated foreign law by executive order is not in contradiction to the very principle of self-government and challenges to invalidate the United States Constitution, which has established self-rule, and the amendment of the 14th Amendment will accomplish this. How the 14th Amendment changed our system of government was by placing all of the power of government in the House of Representatives from 1868 until 1916. This eventually led to the ratification of the 17th Amendment that attempted to give back some control of the legislative system to the states. The control the House of Representatives gained from its ability to appoint U.S. senators to office while having control over the appropriation of budgets, now combined with the new ability to mandate law directly to the states, was an authority which had never existed before. The system of appointment was appropriate to the original design of the government because the common union organization authority was limited to function within its own organization and had no authority over the states. The Bill of Rights up until this point protected the states from these national laws being applied, and each attempt the common union organization made to legislate law against the state was ruled by the court as unconstitutional. With the expansion of jurisdiction of the common union to intervene into state matters, it was necessary to make the proper adjustments to the check-in mechanism to limit and constrain this new authority, and this was not done at the time of ratification. It is now time to complete this amendment.